Shalom everyone, and welcome to day 14 in your study of Biblical Hebrew. Today's letter is the letter Nun, and Nun makes the sound of the letter N as in nut or no. So it makes a n sound, okay? And Nun is also one of those shape-shifting letters or Sofit letters. So it has a final form. And this is what the final form looks like. So you have the Nun, which looks like this. And then you have Nun Sofit, which looks like the top part here, but then there's a line going down. Okay? So this is the letter Nun and Nun Sofit, side by side. It's the same letter, it's just that when it's at the end of a word, we call it Nun Sofit, so we know that we're talking about the final form or the ending form of how Nun shows up at the end of a word. And you can remember this like how you did with the letter Chaf, where Nun has a hinge. So like Chaf, it looks like it has a little hinge over here. And when it turns into this form, it just drops down. So this bottom just goes down. And then it turns into this line sort of thing over here. So you can use that to remember how Nun has the final form and what it looks like. Okay, and here's the other thing. You might get the letter Nun confused with the letter Gimel at first, because you can see they look kind of similar. See that? But Gimel has legs, so it looks like he has legs because of this part at the bottom here, which is cut out. So it looks like he has a foot here. So it looks like he's walking. So that's how you can remember the difference between Nun and Gimel. Gimel looks like a man walking. Nun doesn't. Do you see that? It doesn't have that gap there at the bottom. Now, you may also get Nun confused with the letter Chaf. So when Chaf doesn't have the dot, that's when you may get it mixed up with Nun because it doesn't have the dot. But if it does have the dot, I don't think you might get it mixed up with Nun because it has the dot and Nun doesn't have a dot. So it's usually the Chaf one which you may get it mixed up with. And the way you can remember the difference between them is this. So if you look at Chaf over here, Chaf is sort of curved. Do you see that? And Nun over here looks bent. This is specifically like with book kind of fonts. Usually Nun is half as small as Chaf. So this is wider over here, but Nun is shorter over here. So that's the other thing you can use to remember the difference between Chaf and Nun. Okay, so this part is this part is curved, this part is bent, and also this top part is wider, and this is shorter. Okay? Now, you may also get Nun, that is Nun Sofit, confused with Chaf Sofit. So you can see at first you may get that mixed up, but this part at the top is shorter, and this part is longer. You can see that. So just keep that in mind, that Chaf Sofit, the top of it, is longer. Nun Sofit is shorter. And also, if you notice this part here, this looks like it goes straight down, whereas this over here is kind of bent. So this is usually with like the book fonts kind of thing. When you're writing Nun, it's, I guess, when you're writing Nun, it'll look different between people's handwriting, but this is usually for when you're reading in the book kind of fonts for the Tanakh. It looks kind of like this. So this is straight down, this looks like it's bent, and the top is shorter, and this is longer. Okay, so moving on. This is your word for the letter Nun. We look at the first consonant here. It's a Nun, so we transliterate it with an N, and it makes a n sound. We look down, there's no vowel, so we're going to look to the next one. It's a Vav, but the Vav has a dot in it, which means it's acting as a vowel. So this is the vowel shurik, and it makes an oo sound. So this Vav here is going to make an oo sound because the dot's here in the center, and it looks like Vav got hit in the gut, so he's going to groan and say ooh. Okay? So you have n and u, n, u. You go nu, nu, nu. And that's the sound of this first part here. And then we look over to the next letter, and this is nun sofit. This is the nun at the end of a word. So you have a nun here at the beginning of the word, and now you got the nun at the end of a word. So the bottom part here, this is going to drop down and it's going to turn into a line. And so it makes the same sound. So whether it's in the beginning of a word or it's in the final form, it will always make the n sound. So you go nu, n, nu, n, and you go noon, and that's the sound. And this is also, so this word is actually a name. And you may have heard Joshua, the son of Nun. Many people pronounce this as Nun at the end here, but it's not Nun, it's Noon. So Joshua, the son of Noon. This is how you would say it. So now whenever you see this part here, like when you're reading your Bible and you see this part, don't say Nun, say Noon. And this is what it looks like in Hebrew. So this is Yehoshua. So Yehoshua. Yehoshua. And that's the name for Joshua. Then you have Bin. That's son over here. And then you have Nun. So Yehoshua bin Nun, which means Joshua the son of Nun. Okay, so moving on, you're going to learn how to write the letter Nun. And so you start with a line like this, straight line, and then another straight line. And it goes down like that. It looks like a square bracket, doesn't it? Like how you would type a square bracket on your computer or write a square bracket out. That's kind of like what noon looks like when you're writing it. And remember that this part is shorter. So when you're writing chaf, you write it out longer. So it'd be, say, twice as long of this. So it'd be up to here. You'd write chaf starting from here, and you'd go all the way around like this. But this is noon, so it's shorter. So moving on, we're going to look at nun sofit now. And I should have put nun sofit here where it's longer. But anyway, it's over here, so you can see that. And so the line goes straight like this, and it goes down. So we're going to write a line here, and then we're going to draw a line going down. And then that's nun sofit. It kind of looks like the letter Vav, but remember, Vav only goes from the top here to the bottom. But Nun goes from the top all the way to this part of the red line. It extends below the rest of the letters. Remember, the Sofit letters, apart from the letter Mem, they usually extend below the line and go all the way down. And so what you're going to do now is you're going to do a letter search where you're going to find as many noons as possible. And so you can find noon or noon sofit, doesn't matter, just find as many as you can. And what I've done is I've taken out some of the vowels, some of them I've left in. You can ignore those. You can ignore those vowels, okay? But I've left some of them in because you're going to do a little exercise after this, okay, about with those vowels. And I've highlighted God's name over here, but you should already know that since Adventure Day 3, okay? So I'm going to put the timer up in 3, 2, 1, go. And time's up. So this is how many noons are here. You have this one, and then this one, and here, and over here. And then you only have 2 noon sofits at the end. So we have a total of 4 noons and 2 noon sofits. And you can see here, this is a noon sofit, this is chaf sofit. You can see the difference. This one's longer, this one's shorter. Same thing with the noon here. And you can see chaf over here. It's curved. This one is bent, and then it goes down like this. So that's the difference between these two. Okay? Now what you're going to do here is we're going to take a look at these vowels here. I know you're still learning consonants, but this is just a refresher of remembering the consonants that act as vowels. And if ever you have trouble remembering what consonants act as vowels, remember God's name, how God's name is spelled. Yod, He, Vav, He. The letters Yod, He, and Vav are the letters that act as consonants and also as vowels. So if you ever have trouble remembering what are the letters that do this, remember God's name, because his name is spelled with all those letters. So that will help you remember it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we'll look at the ones that have vowels. So we have the letter He and Segol underneath here, which means this is acting as a vowel, because the letter He is usually acting as a vowel at the end of a word, unless it has a mapik in it. If it has a mapik, that little dot, remember, in the center here, then He is not acting as a vowel. But over here, it is. And then again, over here, the He is acting as a vowel. And here, this is a Vav. And the Vav here is acting as a vowel. And this is Cholim Vav. Cholim Vav. Because the dot is over the Vav. So the Vav will make an O sound. O. So this is Cholim Vav. It's a vowel. We see here, this is Hirik. Hirik. A dot here. And then we see the Yod. Hirik, Yod. And this is a vowel. It's going to make an E sound. Okay? And then this is another Hirik Yod. It makes an E sound. And again, another E sound. And again, here's the dot and the Yod. It makes an E sound. And as you can see, as we saw earlier before when we were doing this, the Hirik and the Yod is very common. So you'll see that a lot. And then we have, I should have removed this one. This one's nothing. But this and this is a vowel. This makes an sound. Because you have Segol and then you have the Yod. And then we look here and we see here's another vowel. This is Vav with the dot over it. So it's Cholim Vav. Cholim Vav. Makes an O sound. O, because the dot is over the letter. Now we see this. We see the dot under a noon here. And then we have the Yod here. So with the Hirik and the Yod, it makes an E sound. But now we have the noon here. And it's attached to it over here. So it goes ni. You can see how the noon is being combined with the vowel. You get ni. Okay, we go down here. Here's another vowel. This is shurik. We saw that earlier in the word noon. It makes an oo sound because the dot here looks like it hit vav in the gut. So now it's going to make an oo sound. So shurik makes an oo sound. Now we look here and we have the He, and then we have a comet underneath. This makes an ah sound. Ah. Okay? And it's a vowel. And then again we see Hirik and then the Yod, so it makes the E sound. If you combine it with the noon, it makes a ni sound. And then we have another Yod and a Segol, just like here. So it's a vowel. And then we have another E sound. And then here is a Tsere and a Yod. So Tsere makes an A sound. So this together is going to make an A sound. A. And then we have the Hirik and the Yod again. So it makes an E sound. And then we have Segol and a Yod. So it makes an sound. And then again here, here's the He and the comets. So it makes an Ah sound. And then you have Hirik again and the Yod. It's another vowel. And it makes an E sound. And then again, Hey and Kametz makes an Ah sound. And then we have Segol and a Yod. Again, sound. Here's another Vav with the dot over it. So it makes an O sound because the dot is over the letter. And then we have Hirik and a Yod. Makes an E sound. Then Segol and a Yod. Sound. And again, a Segol and a Yod over here. And that's all the vowels. The vowel letters, that is. So those are all the vowel letters. And so moving on, what you should know from this lesson before you continue, you should know the name of this letter. It's Nun. And the name of this letter is Nun Sofit, when the Nun is at the end of a word. And the sound is N as in nut, so N. The transliteration is N. The type, it's a consonant. Club, again, not official club or class. I made it up. I call it the shape-shifting club. So you know another letter that is part of the shape-shifting club because it changes form at the end of a word. Okay? So these are all the letters you know so far, or you should have been practicing them. Okay? So you have Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Chaf, Chaf Sofit, Lamed, Mem, Mem Sofit, Nun, Nun Sofit. Okay? So technically these two, same letter, just with or without the dot. These two, same letter, with or without the dot. This is the same letter as this, it just shows up at the end of a word. These two, same letter, just that this one shows up at the end of a word. This two, same letter, just that this one shows up at the end of a word. Okay? So it may seem weird at first why you have a final form, but only certain letters have the final form. In English, you would have to learn two scripts, uppercase and lowercase. You have two different forms, depending on what kind of word it is. If it's a proper noun, you would have to capitalize the word, and so you have to use an uppercase letter in the beginning. So English has two scripts or two forms of the letters, uppercase and lowercase. Hebrew does not have uppercase and lowercase. It has like the regular form and then a form at the end of a word. And that's only for specific letters. You don't have to learn everything like for all the letters like you'd have to do in English. You'd have to learn 26 letters in one form and then another 26 in the other form for English. You don't have to do that in Hebrew. It's only certain letters that will have the final form. Okay? So now we're going to recap all the different groups of letters. So first is the guttural letters that you know so far. The guttural letters are Aleph, Hey, Chet. Aleph, Hey, Chet. These are from the Gutturals plus Resh Club. They're classed as that. Aleph, Hey, Chet. Gutturals plus Resh Club. Next group of letters are the Bigad Kafat letters. Remember the acronym, Bigad Kafat. The B stands for Bet. So this is the letter Bet. It changes sound. With the dot, it makes a B sound. Without the dot, it makes a V sound, as in van. V. And then this is B. B. V. Okay? Next is Gimel. Gimel used to change sound. Now it does not. But it's still part of the club. Okay? Dalet used to change sound. But now it doesn't. It's still part of the club. Okay, so Gimel and Dalet. They're the ones that don't change sound anymore, but they're still part of this group. Okay? Now we have Kaf. This is Kaf, this is Chaf. When it has the dot here, Kaf took its medicine, so it's going to make a clean K sound. It makes a K sound. When it doesn't have the dot, it did not take its medicine, so it makes a sound. Sounds like he's got something stuck in his throat, or he's coughing. So this is the same letter, it just with or without the dot. Now this part, this is chaf sofit. This is without the dot, it makes the ch sound. So these two make the same sound. This is just at the end of a word. That's why it's called chaf sofit. Okay? Next is the vowel letters. So what letters act as vowels? Remember God's name. Yod, He, Vav, He. If you remember his name, you'll remember the letters that can act as vowels. So the letters that act as vowels is He, Vav, Yod. He, Vav, and Yod act as vowel letters. Okay? Next group. What are all the shape-shifting letters? Well, it's Kaf, but without the dot. So you have Chaf and you have Chaf Sofit. This changes into this at the end of a word. You have Mem and Mem Sofit. This is the letter Mem. It changes to this when it's at the end of a word. You have Nun and Nun Sofit. This letter, so the letter Nun here, changes to this form when it's at the end of a word, which you just learned today. Okay? So this is what you should be knowing when moving forward from this lesson. You should know all these letters. You should know their clubs. So remember to listen to the Aleph-Bet song. It will help you in remembering the letters. Okay? Okay, so that's it for this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson where you learn the letter Samech. Okay, so until then, Shalom and God bless.